You guys want to see something epic? Watch this. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Nike Epic React Flyknit running shoes. Now, if you're on social media at all, follow anything even remotely Nike related, you've probably seen these pop up in your feed at least once or twice. They've seen a lot of marketing attention from Nike, and that's because they're banking on this shoe doing extremely well, as it's the first to introduce the React cushioning setup, essentially the replacement for the very popular and something they've had within the brand for a very long time, Lunarlon foam. That's evolved a lot over the years. However, this actually feels quite a bit different. Do these live up to the hype? And I guess to a certain extent, more importantly, how do these compare to the very popular Adidas Ultraboost running shoes that I think Nike is more or less trying to compete with this particular product launch? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video, along with all the other details that you need to know. So if you want to learn more, please stick around, watch the entire video. And if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links to get these shoes in all the currently available colorway for the $150 retail price. Now, of course, this is a soccer channel, and I normally just review soccer-related products. However, I definitely think running and training off the field in general is very soccer-related, and it's something that I have a genuine interest in. I'm sure a lot of you guys share that same interest. So if this is the type of review that you'd like to see on the channel, perhaps more often, other running shoes and other trainers, please let me know down below in the comments, or just support the video with a like. That would be greatly appreciated. On the topic of being a soccer channel, whenever I review anything that isn't a soccer shoe, people always ask, can I play soccer in them? And the simple answer to that question is, I would juggle the ball in them if you really wanted to, but beyond that, I would not buy these as dedicated soccer shoes, period. So basically, the Epic React is the indirect replacement of the Lunar Epic running line from Nike. I had the original Lunar Epics. When those first came out, it was that mid-cut running shoe. You guys will see a picture of it on screen. I may have even done a review of them on this channel. They were pretty good. I really did like them. I even got them in the low-cut variation later on. I did not try the Lunar Epic 2, but now we have the Epic React, which does not have pretty much any of the same foam whatsoever. Instead of Lunarlon, you get React foam, which basically Nike is claiming two major improvements over Lunarlon cushioning, and that is one, that this is going to be a lot more durable, meaning that the way it feels from out of the box is the exact same way that it's going to feel after 300 plus miles. That is just taken directly from their website. Obviously, in regards to durability, I've only been using these for about 2 weeks now since they initially came out. They feel pretty much the same as when they were brand new as far as the cushioning is concerned, but it's way too early, not just for me, but for pretty much anybody to make any long-term claims on the durability of the shoe. However, it definitely does feel more resilient than what we've experienced in the past with Nike's Lunarlon foam. The other claim to fame here that Nike is saying is a major improvement is that this is going to offer up to 13% more energy return than a Lunarlon foam cushioning setup would. And basically what that means is that this is gonna feel more responsive and slightly more bouncy, which I can say after wearing these for about 2 weeks, I didn't necessarily think it at first, but after getting used to the way that they felt, I definitely can say that it does feel definitely firmer and a little bit more bouncy. When it came to actually running in the Epic React, I didn't really feel like there was too much of a break-in process. And if there is a break-in process, it's more so getting used to the feel of the upper rather than the foam itself breaking in, which I think is a key difference in comparison to pretty much any Lunarlon-based trainer or running shoe that I've had over the years. And trust me, I've had my fair share. Lunarlon, and again, this does depend specifically on the setup, can often feel a little bit firm at first, but then after a few days of wear, it kind of hits that sweet spot, and it stays in that sweet spot for a pretty decent amount of time. But eventually, if you wear them long enough and consistently enough, the foam will compress to a point where it just doesn't have that same feeling anymore. It's just not quite as good as it used to be. I get that sense with this React foam that this is going to be a lot more durable. While I have only been wearing them for 2 weeks, it's really too soon to make any legitimate calls on the resilience and overall durability of this cushioning setup. Not just for me, but pretty much anybody. They just simply have not been out long enough. That is something that Nike was really claiming in as far as improvements are concerned with React over Lunar. And you get that sensation that that is exactly what's happening here. with this particular setup. I will also say that I like the fact that it's a pretty thick amount of foam, but it doesn't feel overly mushy on your feet, and it also has decent flexibility to it. I think the foam base is pretty much all the structure. There's a little bit of plastic here around the heel just for the sake of stability, but for the most part, they have really good flexibility. If you want to get into more hardcore running shoe details, these have a 10mm offset, meaning that the heel sits 10mm higher than basically the forefoot toe area, so there's a little bit of a heel toe drop. That's pretty typical 10mm of most regular style running shoes, so that's not something that's going to be too abnormal. If you don't know too much about that, you're probably not going to have any issues with this at all. They feel relatively normal as far as just the on-feet sensation, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. And if I'm comparing this foam to Lunarlon or even Boost from Adidas, I almost would say it kind of feels like the middle ground. It has the bounciness of Boost, not to the same extreme, but it also has that slight bit of plushness and softness that you would expect from something like a Lunarlon setup. Again, kind of that middle ground. It's hard to say whether or not it's better or worse than either of those two shoes that I just mentioned in regards to overall cushioning, but if it can maintain this type of feel for an extended period of time, I definitely think that it's a top-notch cushioning setup. The bottom of the shoe features mostly exposed foam with a rubber patch here in the forefoot toe area and then a rubber patch there at the back of the heel. Basically the two high wear zones of the shoe where you're going to be planting and pushing off, and it provides a decent amount of traction whether the ground is dry or wet, regardless of what kind of surface it is. If you're running in wet grass, it's probably not ideal. I can't say that I've done that in these, but in basic running types of situations, I really didn't have any problems whatsoever. And again, if we're comparing this to the shoe that it replaces, the Lunar Epics, those didn't have any rubber on the bottom at all, which I personally was not a huge fan of, especially if it was a little bit wet outside. So in that regard, this is a nice improvement. You get the durability aspects in the high wear zones at the bottom of the shoe, and because there is less rubber not filling in the middle area, you're gonna have a little bit less weight as well. While on the topic of weight, these are actually lighter than I was expecting them to be. In a size 9.5 US, they weigh in at 8.4 ounces, which is actually quite light for a shoe of this style with this level of cushioning. If we're comparing this to the very popular Adidas Ultraboost, these are almost 2 ounces lighter, which is pretty significant, especially if you're going to be running long distances in them. So if you're expecting these to feel heavy, they really don't feel heavy at all. The upper is certainly nothing groundbreaking in terms of what we've seen from Nike before. It's mostly elasticated Flyknit through the forefoot and toe box area, very, very stretchy, and it has a fairly tight wrap around your foot. You would expect it to have a slightly roomier feel, but they were really going for that kind of sock-like second skin wrap, it looks like. The midfoot area is also elasticated Flyknit, but it does have an internal lining material that kind of takes out the stretchiness through the midfoot area where the laces are positioned. You can see some plastic fused on top. It's also fused internally, and the shoe itself does have a one-piece enclosure. There is no plastic through the middle part, so it is kind of like a one-piece sock-like wrap on your foot, fully elasticated. So when you put it on, the upper kind of just stretches around your foot and then kind of hugs it like a sock. And then the laces are simply there, not necessarily to tie them as tight as possible. You can do that if you'd like, but more so just to hold everything in place so your foot or your heel is not sliding around. Obviously, they've opted for a standard low cut. It doesn't have the extended collar like we saw on the original Lunar Epic that I personally was not a huge fan of overall, just in terms of wearing them as well as the way that they looked. This has an internal heel counter there. And then something that I'm not a huge fan of, I would have liked to have seen a more padded heel liner. They've gone with a heel lining material that is this soft, kind of like synthetic suede type material, but it basically just sits directly against the internal structure with no extra padding whatsoever. So it's a very, very firm feel against your heel. Not to the point where I had any issues with discomfort or blisters or slipping, but I just found it to be not as comfortable as it could have been should they have put a little bit of extra padding there. For those that care, the insole is fully removable, mesh liner on top, single layer of this kind of ortholite foam. Pretty typical of most Nike running shoes. As far as the look is concerned, Nike was nice enough to send these out to me in 2 different colorways. I definitely think that the blue ones look a little bit cooler, but the overall styling of the shoe, they've kept things relatively simple. You can see that it has a pretty straightforward upper. There's a little bit of kind of like a fade pattern within the Flyknit running through the midfoot area. You can maybe see it a little bit better on this colorway because it's black to gray. Nike swoosh in the middle on either side. Obviously, depending on the colorway, you're gonna have an accent there on the heel. You can see this black pair came with a lovely glue thumbprint from whoever made these things. Can't get that off. Doesn't matter though. You can see on the medial side, it does have the Nike branding there written out in gloss on top of either the black or blue. Again, the color will change the way these look to a certain extent. The little plastic piece accenting there above the React foam in the heel area. And then the midsole, this one's more of like a white, this one's more of like a blue tint color. And then you're gonna have a different faded color for the bottom as well. This one's blue, this one's more gray. Overall, honestly, I think it's a pretty cool looking sneaker in general. Does it rival something like the Ultraboost in terms of looks? I think yes. I really do like the way that these look for casual wear, but ultimately it is a performance product. However, people will inevitably buy these simply to wear them casually. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you like the way these look? Do you hate the way they look? Personally, I'm a fan. So as you can see, I swapped out the stock black laces on the right shoe for some junior length black reflective SR4U replacement laces. I always get a lot of questions asking if you can put SR4U laces in other shoes besides soccer cleats. The simple answer to that question is yes, you can. I do it all the time. Laces can't tell if it's a soccer shoe or a running shoe or whatever other kind of shoe it might be. So if you are interested in some replacement laces for yourself, just to change up the style of your shoes, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So be sure to go ahead and check it out. On feet, the Epic React is pretty comfortable from the get-go. Again, the break-in process is more so just getting used to the feel of the upper rather than the React foam kind of breaking in. It feels pretty much the same from the first time that I put them on. It's got significant thickness to it. You definitely feel like you're fairly high off the ground, but definitely not unstable by any means. And really from just walking around, the shoe itself has a firmer feel underfoot. It's not until you start actually running and I guess putting a significant amount of impact and force into the midsole itself until you get that bounciness and kind of reactive sensation that it's supposed to provide. So in terms of walking around, honestly, it feels pretty ordinary, but definitely not uncomfortable by any means at all. But they do feel really good while you're running, which is ultimately, I think, what's most important here. As far as the upper is concerned, it's fully elasticated Flyknit, at least that's how it feels on your feet. And it's got a pretty snug fit overall, but it's stretchy enough to where I'd say that they're gonna fit just about anybody. Again, I would have liked to have seen personally a little bit of extra padding in the heel liner. It doesn't really have any padding, but again, it's not an issue in regards to comfort, just something to get used to. And width-wise, like I said, I think these will fit just about anybody. Just be aware that it is a one-piece enclosure, but the central part seems to be able to stretch quite a bit. So width should not be an issue for you. And as far as sizing is concerned, they sent me a 9.5 and a 10 US. In most other running shoes from Nike, I've been wearing a 9.5. However, the 9.5 in the Epic React felt a little bit snug for me. So if anything, I would actually say that these run about a half size small. At least if you don't want a super, super tight fit, which I don't think most people do for a running shoe. So personally for this model, I would recommend going a half size up for the most comfortable and the best possible fit. So in conclusion, is the Epic React overhyped? I would say yes, if you're expecting these to feel like the best running shoes of all time. There's absolutely nothing about the way that these feel in general, the materials used, even the new React setup, that feels groundbreaking by any means. However, I don't think they're overhyped in the sense that it is legitimately an improved product. This React cushioning setup does feel better than what we had from the Lunarlon. And also, if we're comparing it to the Lunar Epics that these replace, I definitely think of this as an improved product overall. And ultimately, that's kind of what I look for when you replace an old model with a new model, is some kind of improvement, and this definitely does feel like an improvement. And of course, it's Nike, so you can expect a lot of evolution of these concepts, and specifically this React technology, not just with the next Epic React running shoe, but across pretty much the entire brand with all kinds of different footwear. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with this. Is it worth it, and is it a good alternative over its main competitor, the Adidas Ultraboost? I definitely think that the Ultraboost for casual wear in terms of walking around, it is more comfortable. It's really hard to beat this Boost cushioning setup. However, if you do personally prefer something that has a slightly firmer sensation in comparison to Boost, which I definitely do when it comes to actually running, not necessarily casual wear, I would much rather run in the Epic React than I would in the Ultraboost. I've never really liked running in the Ultraboost, period. However, if you're buying them for casual wear, it just depends more so, I would say, what you like the look of, because in terms of overall comfort, I find them both to be very, very comfortable running shoes. And price also needs to be taken into consideration. These retail for $180, these retail for $30 less at $150. So you would be saving a little bit of money with the Epic React. However, they're both really, really solid shoes. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for other running shoes perhaps that you'd like to see reviewed on the channel, leave that down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.